Yo, what up? Welcome to another episode of the Oakland Warriors podcast. I'm Patrick, flying solo. So the Warriors, they beat the Sacramento Kings at home. First game at home since that terrible road trip where they went 0-5. They won 116-113 against the Kings, a Kings team that came in only 3-5, but had fought really well in a lot of games. So they have talent, they have skill, and that was a close one. They were definitely coming after the Warriors, and the Warriors won that game just because of Steph Curry. I mean, that was an amazing performance. And it's funny because I went back to the episode I did for this podcast against the Miami Heat, the home game against the Heat. And it was their last home game before the road trip. And Steph had a great game in that one. You know, that was really also about how just solid Steph is, how he's just exactly where he needs to be. He hasn't had any drop off or anything. He's like in playoff form. And we saw that again here. And if Steph doesn't do this, he doesn't play this way in this game, it's over, right? He brings them back all by himself. And this team begins and ends with Steph, plain and simple. That's it. Done deal. None of that. None of the young guys, none of the lottery picks have shown the ability to be that transcendent player. And they might eventually, right? They're all still really young. But, you know, Steph is, of course, a once in a lifetime player. I mean, in the way he plays, he's never been matched anytime in the history of the NBA. I mean, you can argue about eras and rules and all that stuff, but just Steph's, like who he is as a player, his mental makeup, his level of skill, his wisdom, and he's a killer, right? And he came after it. There was that one call that he didn't get where he got a tech and he just came at the ref and he looked really mad. A lot of people said that that's the maddest they've ever seen him in a game. And it might be up there. I think there have been other times. I remember this wasn't at a ref, but there was that 2020, 2021, the play-in season. I don't know if y'all recall, but I believe they were playing the Clippers and he was during a timeout, like really just like yelling at his team to like get into it. He's like, you know, come on. I remember it was like Kelly Oubre, Andrew Wiggins, whomever else was on the court at the time. They were all sitting on the baseline because back then no fans and the seats were along the baseline. You could sit wherever you want. And he was just pleading with the guys to you know, get with it and get going. And in this one, you know, I gotta say, like going after that rookie ref, it was, you know, he could have either double teed him and sent him out of the game, but luckily he showed some restraint and did not, because, you know, if Steph was gone at that point, this game, no one else was going to bring them back. And, you know, the starters, of course, they overall played well. They were all in the pluses for plus minus. Draymond Green plus 19, Wiggins plus 16, Looney plus 8, Steph plus 20, Klay plus 11. They all didn't have great games, but that's the squad that closed out this one. You look at the bench, we all know the bench is a problem and it's a work in progress. Big deal made. Wiseman went to the bench, didn't play. JaMychal Green sat for this one as well. And I'd said that I'd wanted to see Kuminga play, taking mostly JaMychal Green's minutes, but I was hoping Wiseman would keep playing, but I was not surprised at all that he sat. I think he probably wasn't too excited. Neither of those dudes were excited about that or happy about it, but, you know, it gives Wiseman a chance to take like a step back, get a breather. Obviously, it gives the team a chance to see other guys out there and see different dudes in that role and see if things can be different, right? Like when you go 0-5 and you're 3-7, you just have to shake things up. And that's what it was. In a way, seeing that the bench was not good at all in this one, it shows that Wiseman was not the sole problem, right? Maybe he needed like a step back to kind of like observe and learn and see what some of the other guys are doing. But he didn't seem happy. I like to watch the bench, especially when the Warriors are shooting on the end that the Warriors bench is on. And after like crazy shots or big shots or clutch shots, I look for reactions from some of those guys. And usually, Wiseman is pretty low key, but he didn't move very much. And I'm not saying that he is a problem or anything like that, but it's just something to keep your eyes on. I mean, I even noticed at the end of the game when Klay, almost fouled Herter, but they didn't call it, and the buzzer sounded. Like there was no huge celebration from the bench. Maybe Lamb and Ty Jerome, put their arms up. Moses Moody, JaMychal Green, Jonathan Kuminga, and Wiseman, they just kind of stood there. So, I'm not saying that there's any kind of huge discontent, but if you're them, you hope they're not happy. You hope they're pulling for the team, but you understand that they're not pleased with hopefully the way they're playing and what they're doing out there. We got Kuminga minutes, which is what we all wanted, I think. He only got 9, 2 for 5, missed both threes he took, 1 for 2 from the line, minus 17, 5 points only, no rebounds, no assists, no steals, no blocks, no turnovers, and no fouls. His threes, he is 1 for 9 from 3, I believe, on the season, but his threes were, they were long. They were online, and his missed free throw was long. Could be amped up, just, getting into the feel of the game. So he's not like way off. And, I don't fault him for taking those. I'm sure he's made a bunch of those in practice, and you need to be able to keep the other team honest. But he'll continue to get run, and I'm assuming he'll continue to get better. Kerr went with Anthony Lamb, Ty Jerome off the bench really, really early. And I think that's a reward in some ways for how well they played against the Pelicans. And I don't think it's a situation where it's like, oh, you played well here, have a ton of minutes. But I said this in the last game episode after the Pelicans. The Warriors, for as much young talent as they have, they don't have those end of the bench guys, the Damian Lees, the JTAs, who were unspectacular, but they could settle a little bit in games, and the trusted like vets, even if they were longtime G Leaguers or in their late 20s and had only been in the NBA for a couple of years, they knew to play within themselves, and they knew how to kind of calm down a little bit and take their time, slow things down a little bit, and just be dependable in their roles. And hopefully Wiseman, hopefully Kuminga, seeing Lamb play out there, because he took a lot of, power forward, small ball center minutes. Hopefully they can see what he did well to help the team in the fourth quarter as they were making their comeback. Again, I think it's temporary that you roll out those guys. You wanted to see, I'm sure we all wanted this game. If they lost to the Kings and were 3-8 with the Cavs, who are really, really looking good right now, potentially going down 3-9 on the year, then, this is the one you kind of had to have, and you didn't want to screw that up. So you put in Lamb, you put in Jerome, knowing that they make fewer mistakes, and the mistakes are the things that had been biting the Warriors on the butt, So I don't blame him for using those guys, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see them again in the Cavs game. It's going to be a bummer because the Wiseman-Mobley matchup that I've been wanting to see for, since the beginning of the 2021 season, we might not see. I would love it. I would love it to give Wiseman a chance out there. You're going to be playing against not just Evan Mobley, but of course Jared Allen, and those dudes are legit 7-footers. So, do you want to just go small with them the whole time? Like, do you not want to roll out your 7-footer as well. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. The bench, their plus minuses, just to highlight it, like I said, Kuminga minus 17, Lamb minus 7, Ty Jerome minus 22, the worst on the team in this one, and Jordan Poole minus 11, Moses Moody minus 1. Consistently throughout this short season so far, Steph has been, as I've said, he's shown up for every game, and he is in physical shape, mental shape. He's a surgeon out there right now. He knows how to get a shot. It's amazing to me, and I've said this before, like, coming into the league, I really, really thought he was just going to be like a Hersey Hawkins type guy who was just a spot up shooter. But his handle, his acumen for the game, it just opened up everything, changed the game, obviously. And you see Steph, how he's able to get to the basket because people are so scared of his quick trigger three, and how they have to guard him so deep. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. And he really just puts on a clinic in a lot of ways, because he takes care of his body so well that his mind, his basketball mind, his IQ, right? Like, usually the peak of someone's prime is late 20s to early 30s. Steph is technically moving into his mid 30s. He'll be 35 in March. But because of the way his game is, it's not predicated on pure athleticism or hops or anything like that. And he takes care of himself so well. Like, there's a few years for him to be at his peak. And in terms of everybody else on the team, though, like, the most consistent dude in the starting lineup has been Andrew Wiggins, right? I mean, in this one, we played 40 minutes, 10 for 17, 4 for 8 from 3. And he hit a couple huge threes in the fourth when guys like Klay and Jordan Poole weren't hitting anything, because they needed that second guy. I mean, we went into the season thinking like, wow, the Warriors have so much firepower with Steph, Klay, Poole, Wiggins, and then their athletic young bench. But nothing has come to a consistent fruition. And I think it will. I mean, that's the whole point of this long season and getting everyone up to speed. But Wiggins, his plus 16, 25 points, 10 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals, and a block. I mean, there's a good chance they don't have 4 wins this season if Wiggins is not playing the way he has been. So props to Wiggins. Really, really like underrated how well he's played for the most part this season, but he's also had some down games. Draymond, he's playing pretty well, solid, 36 minutes, 4 for 7, 3 for 5 from the line, 8 boards, 6 assists, 5 turnovers though. He's solid. Looney's always solid. Looney's defense. And also I'd like to mention that Looney is, for the most part, finishing a lot better this year. Yes, he'll flub some layups, especially when he's under the basket. Sometimes the angle and the touch isn't there. But in terms of all the work he did with the developmental coaches last season, he's a little bit more, actually a lot more dependable when he gets the ball in the lane or on the baseline and needs to take a dribble and pump fake and put the shot up. He's much better this season, it seems like, than he was last year. But he had 13 boards, 4 assists. Steph, I just got to say his line, 17 for 24, 7 for 12 from 3, 6 for 7 from the line, 8 boards, 8 assists, plus 20. Again, best on the night, 47 points. What can you say, right? Klay, again, he's working his way in, and there are again a couple of shots like he stole the ball, and I think he had to beat Malik Monk. It was just them two, and Klay was streaking towards the basket, and Monk is very athletic, right? And I did not think Klay would make the shot. I did not think he would make the layup, and he missed it hard off the glass, with Monk getting really high up, forcing Klay to adjust his shot. So, Klay will get to where he needs to be. He may not get to where he was in 2019, but I think I said before, it doesn't seem sometimes like he's playing the opponent. It seems like he's playing ghosts in his head. This game felt more like he was playing his opponent, but when he was playing well in the finals, there's this purpose. It's like this immediacy of the finals. Right now, it feels like overall this season, he's just trying to play his old self. And, that's something that he has to work out. I have no inside knowledge. It's just observation, seeing him like frustrated and seeing him on the court and whatnot. So I feel like he will get there eventually. NFL Sundays are only getting better, and so are the incredible offers at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win and get $200 in free bets if they do. Check this out. Right now, everyone can earn up to a 100% boost with DraftKings stepped up same game parlays. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, place a same game parlay, and combine multiple bets like which team will win, player props, and point totals. If you guys got any insights and tips on the San Francisco 49ers and Christian McCaffrey, then send them my way. With payouts bigger than ever, DraftKings Sportsbook is my go-to when betting on the NFL. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, use promo code TBPN, and place a $5 pregame moneyline bet to get $200 in free bets if your team wins. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL with code TBPN. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. Jordan Poole, I've talked about this before. He had a couple great games on the road trip, but there's just times defensively where he's just not there, right? Slow on rotations. He gave up like this wide open three pretty much to Malik Monk. And I get that you have to give him some cushion because he's so athletic, he can blow by you, but he gave him like a ton of cushion, and Malik Monk is a very, very good 3-point shooter, and he got hot there for streaks. So, Poole has to work on that. And also, I keep mentioning this, and it was even more glaring in this close game. He gets dribble happy, and he dances around a lot. And then when he drives, he'll get stuck, he'll get trapped. And the next thing you know is he's looking out to make a long pass to the 3-point line. In this game, he started doing it even worse because he would leave his feet. Klay started doing that too. And that's something you don't do, right? If I was a coach scouting Jordan Poole, it's like when he drives, I would just stay home in front of him to make him have to kind of use his pivot foot and dance around a little bit, especially if he goes up in the air. But then I would tell all the other defenders to like go to the dudes on the 3-point line and intercept passes, because that's exactly what Poole does pretty often, right? If he doesn't get the shot off, he is looking back there. Sometimes it looks a little bit more in the float. A lot of times it's just like, okay, this is a busted play, and he's looking for a bailout. So those things are the things that are hurting the Warriors as well. So it's not just Wiseman, it's not just Kuminga. And I think that these are things that the team has to figure out. I've said they need to figure out 7, 8, and 9. And, hopefully the Warriors get DiVincenzo back against the Cavs. I think his just solid play, he'll be out of rhythm. He'll probably be out of shape a little bit, out of wind, because it was a leg injury, a hamstring. But, just having his kind of presence out there, somebody who can slow the game down and take control of the offense, bring the ball up, calm the young guys. Because you think about it, Poole is still just 23. He hasn't reached where he's going to be. And don't get me wrong. Like, I think obviously I still think it's great to have signed him, but you want him to improve. You don't want him to just get stuck in this developmental stage. The whole thing was like, hey, you go back to the playoffs, you win the title, everything's fine and dandy. But like, let's not forget, he showed out great against the Nuggets, but there were series where you had to sit him because of his defensive liability issue. So he needs to improve, plain and simple. Moses Moody surprisingly only got 9 minutes. And, you saw him get blown by a few times in this game. His foot speed, I always bring up, and his kind of slower than most shooting motion. But I think that, he just needs to continue to be solid. All these guys, that's the whole point. You're playing Lamb, you're playing Jerome, because they've shown that they can be solid. So the young guys need to get that straight, figure that out. And the narrative of the season, the arc of the season at this point is totally different. That's why you're getting these guys out there. Like, if they had gone 3-2 on the road trip, or even 2-3, you're playing with a different deck, because there's no immediacy, urgency to like, you got to get this win. We got to play guys who aren't going to screw up. And that's what you're seeing out there. Against the Cavs, not exactly sure. There's a 3-day break between these games, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then they play Friday. What lineup is Kerr going to roll out there? Is he going to try to match up as best as he can, or is he going to play like who he had on the bench this time? Is he going to play a lot of Lamb and Jerome, less Moody, and even less Kuminga? So it will be really, really interesting. That game I'm going to look at as kind of a barometer. If they get blown out at home by those guys, then that's like, okay, this is a team that has a lot of work to do, plain and simple. If they win or if they compete, if they kind of show who they are, who they can be, then you're on to something, right? They could go on a winning streak. This could be just a Kings game that was saved by Steph, and then they go into the tank against the Cavs. So I think what would help them win against the Cavs is if all the starters played solidly at the same time, or at least a few more of them played solidly. A big game from Klay would be helpful. But, this is the hand that they're dealt. This is what they've chosen. And I obviously still believe in them. It's not going to be pretty for a minute. And Kerr is still trying to figure some stuff out. But let's see what they come out with against the Cavs. I'm really, really, really curious because I would play, obviously I would play Wiseman in that game. And you might also want to play JaMychal Green, just because he's tough like that. But I would want to see Wiseman. If you bench Green in favor of someone like Lamb, then I'm good with that too. But it's not like this solved the bench problem, the 7, 8, 9, 10 slot problem. And honestly, like when you look at the bench, they were 0 for 8 from 3. If it wasn't for Steph and Wiggins hitting 7 for 12 and 4 for 8, the shooting just isn't there. This is not it, right? They can't count on Steph to bail them out of every single game. That really, really deep team that we talked about in the preseason, over the summer or whatever, they haven't shown up yet. And they're still there, but when will everybody start like clicking, from the starters to the bench, some of the guys figuring it out? I was hesitant to say that guys like Wiseman and Kuminga should go to the G League, but, we'll see. It'll be telling against the Cavs if Wiseman sits and he goes with Lamb a lot, because then you might be, seeing James Wiseman get some just minutes, plain and simple minutes, not just, yes, to get like some reps, but also to get more familiar again with the offense and seeing where he fits in it and all that jazz. So anyway, it's a win, and, we got some days off. Go out and vote. There's no games on Tuesday, so please do. I'll check you out later. That is another episode of the Oakland Warriors podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Feel free to hit me up on Twitter at Patrick E. Pino or at Oakland Warriors. Check out our YouTube channel where you can watch this episode, youtube.com/Oakland Warriors. Check us out at oaklandwarriors.com, and be sure to tell your fellow Warrior fan friends to tune in and listen. The Oakland Warriors podcast is produced by National Film Society and is a part of the Basketball Podcast Network. And if you're so inclined, please do leave us a 5-star rating on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you want to leave us a nice review saying good stuff about the show on Apple Podcasts, that would be hugely, hugely appreciated, and it would be very, very helpful. Thanks. That's it. Music in this episode provided by Paper Sun. Special thanks to Paul Amardo for production support. See you next time, and go Dubs.